Behind me, we have the 2023 GR86 premium trim with the manual transmission. We're going to take a look at it today and see if this is really the last true sports car with an under $30,000 entry price. Now, as most manufacturers are going to bigger and better things, SUVs, trucks with much bigger price tags, we're going to see what kind of value you get out of this two-door rear-wheel drive manual transmission sports car and see if it's worth maybe just having it as a weekend vehicle. Let's take a look today and see what this vehicle has to offer. Starting in the front of the GR86, you can see that this has a nice redesigned long hood compared to the first generation, a long hood with a lower nose. So it's going to give you a much more aerodynamic profile and a much more aggressive looking profile. Better looking in my opinion as well. Now on the sides where the fog lights used to be on the first generation, we have these functional air vents, so they pass through going past the front tires. Now it is going to be a little bit different than the BRZ because these right here have a nice design where this plastic piece just kind of disappears and goes off the bottom lip of the vehicle. The BRZ kind of wraps back around and has just an overall different look, a little bit cheaper in my personal opinion. Now to the side of the mesh grille, we have our LED headlights. These are LED headlights, LED DRLs, as well as LED turn signals. Now these projector headlights are auto high beam and steering responsive headlights. So when you go around a corner, your headlights are going to turn with you, making you being able to see around that corner just a little bit better. Now below this mesh grille, we have a body color painted lower lip. Now on the BRZ, it is going to be a different color than the body color. So it's going to look a little bit different between the horizontal lines in the grille and the different lower lip and the different side air vents. The overall BRZ front end looks much different than this GR. This GR is much more aggressive and kind of gives that overall presence that the GR family is so known for. Taking a look at the side of the GR86, some things I want to go over, some features that I like, some LED side markers right here. And like I mentioned, we have that pass-through vent on the front. So that comes through here to the front of the tire. And then to escape the air from the wheel well area, we have another vent behind the front tire that passes through to the side door. And that will just flow alongside the door. Now up top, we have these black heated side mirrors. Coming on back, we have body color painted door handles that have a touch sensitive lock and unlock feature. And then moving on back, we have a color matched shark fin up here, no longer gonna have an antenna, a nice like kind of double bulge roof, giving it a very sleek and aerodynamic looking design. Now in terms of dimensions, let's talk about some numbers. So overall length for the GR86 is 167.9 inches. Our wheelbase is 101.4. Overall height from the floor to the top of the roof is 51.6 inches. And then a measurement that I don't normally give is the drag coefficient. Now Toyota prides themselves on the GR86 being a very aerodynamic vehicle, and they want to advertise that. So the drag coefficient is measured at 0.276. Now for overall curb weight for the GR86 with the manual transmission in this premium trim is 2,883 pounds. In the rear of the GR86, we have LED taillights. So LED taillights, LED brake lights, LED turn signals, even this LED middle brake light right here underneath this duckbill spoiler. Now this duckbill spoiler is specific to the premium trim. It is color matched, so it is this nice blue that we have here. And this is, like I mentioned, only on the premium. Without it, it's still a little bit of a duckbill lip on this rear deck lid, but it is not as emphasized as this. Now, this is a shorter back deck lid than the previous generation, kind of making it look a lot more sportier and kind of having this nice, sleek, aerodynamic design. Now, underneath this deck lid or this duckbill spoiler, we have our camera as well as our trunk release here. On the passenger side, we have the GR86 indication, Toyota logo, and nothing on the driver's side. Now in the front seating area, we have a 6-way adjustable driver's seat, a 4-way adjustable passenger seat, and it is all manual. So you can pump it up and down to move up and down, and then you also have your recline and moving forward and back. Now these are a 2-stage heated sports seat with leather trim bolsters and an ultra suede insert. Very nice seats, and they are heated, and that is a massive bonus for a vehicle like this. Overall, I find myself getting very comfortable and having plenty of legroom and plenty of headroom. I think that they give you quite a bit of headroom, especially for someone my size, because if you do want to track this vehicle, you're going to have a helmet on. So overall, a very comfortable seating area, especially even my size with such a small vehicle. Now, getting into it is another story. You almost feel like you're crawling onto the ground as this vehicle is super low and has a super low center of gravity. So overall, super comfortable driving area. I can get in a nice driving position where I can shift nicely, pull the e-brake down if I need to, clutch, foot, all that good stuff. I can get in a nice comfortable position. So I'm gonna rate this front seating area at 8 out of 10. Now, in order to truly show you the size of this back seat, I'm going to adjust this seat to where I would be sitting if I was in the passenger seat, or at least the least comfortable position realistically I would be in this passenger seat. Obviously, if I go all the way back to the most comfortable, there's no possible way I'm fitting in that rear seat. This is probably the least amount of room realistically I'd ever want sitting in the passenger seat. Now let's go ahead and try to get back there. There's no possible way. I'm already looking at it. There's no way. Like I mentioned, size 13 feet aren't fitting too well underneath the seat. Get the seat to move back. There's not really a way I can fit back here, but overall, this is rated at 29.9 inches of legroom and 33.5 inches of headroom. Obviously, the measurements aren't the most accurate at times. If the seat was moved all the way forward, I could see where that 29.9 inches of legroom comes from. But if you have someone sitting in this passenger seat, not really realistic. You could maybe put a double amputee back here, a very small child, or realistically, just use it for storage. Now, if we jump into the trunk area, let's go ahead and press this button, manual release, pull that up. Inside, we only have 6.26 cubic feet of overall volume, but we do have an optional accessory package back here, optional, or the preferred accessory package number 1. And that is a $404 option. That gets you floor mats in the front seat, this trunk floor mat here that is marked with the GR86 indication. And then under that, we do not have a spare tire. We only have a fix-a-flat with a tire pump. Now off to the driver's side of the trunk area, we have part of that preferred accessory package. This is the first aid kit. Part from the mats, we get the first aid kit and a couple of other doodads. Now obviously you can see that the trunk ends right there, and that is the back seat of the vehicle. Let's go around to the side. Going to go ahead and put the passenger seat forward. Let me go around to the driver's side and do that as well. This is definitely not an easy process, but you can do it. Turn that off so it's not beeping. Pull this seat forward. And then if you go to the driver's side, there is a button on the top side, and that folds that seat back down. Now with that down, it folds completely flat, and there is massive amounts of room if you want to store more things. Now that gives you a lot more space having that folded down. You can go ahead and put your seats back to where they were, and you can go about your business, and you can have a lot more room in your rear trunk area. Now it is a little bit of an ordeal trying to get this set up, since they are manual seats and there is no release for that backrest or that back seat rest in the trunk area. Starting on the door panel, we have this suede or Alcantara up on the top window trim or the top of the door panel. Nice fabric, but unfortunately when this door is open and it is raining, you are going to get water on this, and it's definitely not ideal to get this wet. Down below, kind of a hard plastic, some leather trimming right here with contrast stitching, a cup holder here where you can fit a smaller water bottle, auto window switches on the passenger side as well as driver's side. Power mirrors so you can adjust them from the driver's seat, plastic door handles, overall 1 speaker grill here, and overall just your fairly basic door panel. Moving on in, we do not have any indication on the entry sills here, but we do have that preferred accessory package that gets you these GR86 indicated floor mats here. We do have these aluminum sport pedals down here, your rest pedal, your dead pedal, clutch, brake, and gas over on the right side. Now we do have these sport bucket seats, leather trim bolsters with this ultra suede middle here, going up the seat back, contrast stitching on the lower portion with this nice silver streak in between the legs. Moving up to the center console area, we do have this middle storage here. We have 2 charging ports in there, 2 cup holders that are connected in the middle, but we have a USB-A, a USB-A, as well as an aux cord right there as well. Close that up, that is going to be your armrest, so if you do have anything there, you constantly have to have it open, or if you have cups in there, it's going to be in your elbow way, so unfortunately it's a little cramped in here. In front of that, we have our manual e-brake, we have our heated seat controls there, traction control off, as well as our track mode on and off. Taking a look at the glove box, just big enough for your massive manual that comes with this. Nice leather book, all your books inside there. Next to the HVAC controls, we have our start-stop GR button here. Nice little indication that you are driving a Gazoo racing vehicle. Above that, we have our 8-inch infotainment system here, touchscreen. Pretty simple. There is not much doodads in here to make it all fancy. Same system that's found in the Subaru, but it is touchscreen and it is fairly responsive, has an anti-glare coating on it. You have some physical buttons on the side, kind of your run-of-the-mill infotainment system. Even for the aftermarket scene, this looks very aftermarket, but nothing too fancy. No wireless CarPlay. It's all wired through here, since there is no charging ports up in this area. Up above that, we do have 2 vents for the passenger and the driver. Hazards in the middle. We have this tiny little patch of Alcantara down there. So it's just a nice little breakup of all this plastic on the dash. Below that, we have our 7-inch digital gauge cluster here. Some basic information displayed, really fairly simple, but we have some track settings here, lap times, our G meter, and some different things like that. Scroll over, we have what music is playing at the time. We have some more options here to turn off your blind spot detection, rear cross traffic alert, steering responsive headlights. Scroll on over, settings, any messages, as well as trip information, battery voltage, simple things like that. Down below, we have our odometer, we have our speedometer, as well as our tachometer coming around there. On the right side, we have our coolant temperature, as well as our fuel gauge, and then obviously some warning lights all around the sides. To the side of that, we do have another vent. We have our kind of brightness for our gauge cluster, and our interior lights, control that there, and our trunk release below that. The steering wheel is fairly simple. It is leather trimmed, nice contrast stitching throughout, and we do have fairly minimal controls on the left and the right. Nice GR indication down here on the bottom spoke of this 3-spoke leather trimmed wheel. This is not heated. There is no option for a heated steering wheel, just the dual stage heated seats for this premium trim. If you want the safety that Toyota has to offer, you have to equip this with the automatic transmission and not the manual. For wheels, tires, and suspension setup, we have an 18-inch black alloy. This is a 10-spoke design specifically for the premium trim level. Now for tires, we have a 215 40/18. This is a Michelin Pilot Sport 4, a great tire for dry conditions, but unfortunately in the Pacific Northwest, we are coming into the winter time. So with loose leaves on the ground as well as rain every single day, I'm in kind of a window right now where it's not raining, but when it is raining with those loose leaves on the ground, it's really hard to put the power down with those 215s in the rear. Fortunately, when it is dry out, this vehicle does hook up pretty well. But just keep that in mind. If you're going to buy this car, maybe get a set of winter tires. Now for suspension, we have a McPherson strut in the front, multi-link in the rear. We have GR circuit tuned shock absorbers as well as coil springs in the front and the rear. And we also have a GR circuit tuned electronic power steering. So in terms of performance, the GR86 has adequate performance. Now this is a fairly small motor, a 2.4 liter boxer 4-cylinder motor, 228 horsepower, nothing too crazy, especially in today's time when we have electric vehicles with over 1,000 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower being sold to the public. Now with that being said, that doesn't make for too much of a driver's vehicle. With over 1,000 horsepower, it's gonna be pretty hard to put that all to the ground unless it's all-wheel drive or electric, anything like that. So to have a rear-wheel drive car, manual transmission, over 200 horsepower, it's just, I mean, that's what makes a driver's vehicle. Now this is rated at a 6.1 0 to 60, and I tested it in the wet like we have right now. I tested it at 6.82 seconds was my best time. Now this isn't my personal car, so I'm not gonna be beating on it too hard. If it was my car and I wanted to get like the best possible time, I could dump the clutch a little bit harder. And if it was drier out, I'd probably have some more heat in the tires, wouldn't spin as much, and I get a much better time. So in terms of braking, I have an 11.6 inch disc in the front and 11.4 in the rear, and for a vehicle that only weighs 2,800 pounds, that's all you really need. You don't need anything too crazy. You don't need 6 piston calipers. This has a 2-piston caliper in the front, 11.6 inch disc in the front, 11.4 in the rear. So you don't need a crazy braking system. Now, if you are gonna be tracking this crazily, like you're gonna be tracking this all the time, getting a ton of heat through those rotors, you're gonna maybe wanna upgrade to a different braking system, and that's just common sense for any sort of track purpose vehicle. If you're gonna be driving it solely on the track, you can get by with what you have on this, but if you're gonna be beating the crap out of it, you're gonna want something that's not gonna heat soak and kind of dissipate with the heat. Now this thing can probably withstand quite a bit, but if you are gonna be pushing your vehicle continuously over and over and over, obviously, it goes without being said, you're gonna wanna upgrade your brakes. 60 to 0 braking was 161 feet. Keep in mind, it is wet out, so I did have ABS kick in just a tiny bit. I sped up to around 60 miles an hour, clutch in, foot straight to the floor on the brake. Now between the near perfect weight distribution, the low center of gravity with the aluminum roof, aluminum hoods, aluminum fenders, it gives you a very low center of gravity, perfect weight distribution or near perfect weight distribution. And then you also have GR circuit tuned coil springs, shock absorbers, and electronic power steering. So everything that Toyota has done to give the GR86, to give it the best chance of handling like you would want out of a driver's vehicle. And that is why I'm giving this an A rating. Now, handling doesn't always equate to a great ride quality. With that being said, it is a little bit of a stiffer suspension because you are wanting this to be a driver's vehicle or a well-handling vehicle, so your ride quality is going to be compromised a little bit. But overall, the GR86 really doesn't compromise too much. I do find that it is a little harsh on some rough roads, but on roads like we're on right now where it's fairly smooth, there's not a lot of potholes, not a lot of ruts in the road, I don't find it to be harsh at all. You're definitely in a sports car and you know that. You're in pretty comfortable bucket seats, but you are being bolstered on all sides. You are kind of in a tight seat. It's a little bit stiff suspension wise, so it's not going to be as good of a score for ride quality as it was handling, but my rating for overall ride quality is going to be a B. Now for cabin noise, I am going to put this at a C rating just because the whole purpose of this vehicle is to give you that driving experience. They do enhance the sound from the engine inside the cabin, but cruising at 50 miles per hour, my decibel reading was 76.1 decibels. And I cruise on the same road near my house at 50 miles per hour, and I hold the meter that I have right here next to my ear in between the driver and passenger seat. And the ambient max decibel reading was 76.1 decibels. Now, when I cruised at 50 miles per hour in fourth gear, I accelerated pretty much all the way until red line, and I got a max reading of over 90 decibels, right around 90 decibels, which is fairly loud, but that goes to show that they are piping some noise into the cabin, really emphasizing that engine noise. So overall, the cabin noise isn't too great, especially if you are on a rough road. You're gonna hear a lot of chassis kind of vibration because this does have fairly stiff suspension, fairly low profile tires, and it's just overall gonna not handle the potholes as well as like an off-road vehicle, obviously, but not too bad for what it is. Now, in terms of fuel economy, I am gonna rate this at a B rating. Now, there is not a ton of competition for the GR86 out there right now, other than the MX-5 or the Miata as you call it. The MX-5 is really the closest competitor that you can have. A little bit less horsepower, but it gets better gas mileage than this, so that is going to beat this out, and that does come in a manual. The Miata does get 34 miles per gallon highway, and this only gets 27 miles per gallon highway, but you are getting more power, and I would say a much nicer interior and overall look in the GR86. So there's some compromises made there, but a B rating for the fuel economy is where I'm kind of feeling this is going to be at. Now, in terms of competitors for the GR86, it's kind of lacking. There's not a lot to compete with this. Now, other than the MX-5, you could say that the Mustang could be a competitor. It's quite a bit bigger. It's similar pricing, but it has quite a bit more horsepower. That does have the EcoBoost motor, and that has 300 horsepower. This has 228. The Miata has 181, I believe. I might be a little bit off on that. I know it's around 180 horsepower in the MX-5. So the Mustang is, I mean, quite a massive horsepower difference between the two vehicles. So it's kind of hard to put the Mustang in comparison with this, but in terms of fuel economy, with the MX-5 being the main competitor, this is going to be a little bit less than the MX-5, but you get better looking vehicle, more horsepower, and overall just a better vehicle in my personal opinion. So now let's talk about pricing for the GR86. So the trim that we had was the premium trim, which is the top trim, other than the fact that for 2023, we have the 10th anniversary edition. So there is one above it, but it is a special edition, so I'm not going to consider that a trim, more of a one-off vehicle. So us having the premium trim as equipped, our vehicle was $32,863 at time of filming, but $32,363 on the Monroney. Now the premium trim level starts at $31,000, and we had a couple of options equipped in our vehicle. So we had the black lug and locks, which was $295, preferred accessory package, which was $404, and just a quick recap, that gets you your carpet floor mats, carpet trunk mat, your first aid kit, your quick charge cable kit, as well as key gloves. A couple non-important things in my personal opinion, the quick charge cables and the key gloves, kind of just something to throw in there extra. Now, if you just want to get into the base trim GR86, that starts at $28,000, and then you bump up to the premium, like I said, $31,000 for the premium. Now, if you want to go for the 10th anniversary, that has a starting price of $34,360. And all trim levels come with a complimentary 1-year membership to the NASA, National Auto Sports Association, and then 1 high performance driving experience day with a purchase of your GR86 or any GR product at that, GR Corolla or GR Supra. Now, where does the GR86 stack up against some competition? And like I mentioned earlier in the video, there really isn't a ton of competitors in the market anymore. Really, the rear-wheel drive, two-door manual transmission, it's kind of going out. There's not really a need for it. A lot of people are going for bigger and better vehicles, more fuel efficient, maybe electric, they can fit their family in, more cargo space, all of the things that go against what the GR86 stands for. So there's not going to be a lot of competition, but there is a couple of vehicles that I want to mention, a couple honorable mentions. Obviously the BRZ, which is just a rebranded GR86 or vice versa, or however you want to look at it. Now the BRZ, the cheapest model you can get into is their premium. That's their bottom trim, and the limited is what would be our premium. Kind of flip-flopped on that. But their cheapest one is $29,615, and their limited, their top trim, is going to set you back $32,115. So very similar pricing to the GR86. The first vehicle I want to mention as a competitor to the GR86 or the BRZ is the Mazda MX-5 Miata. Now the MX-5 Miata has a major cult following, and it's just been a tried and true platform over the years, and that was here long before the GR86 or the BRZ were around, or the Scion FRS for that matter. So for the MX-5, it has a 2-liter 4-cylinder motor that produces 181 horsepower, just about 47 horsepower less than what we have in the GR86. But overall, it's still a very small car with great weight balance, manual transmission, so you're maybe not going to feel that power as much as you might think. And I'm sure they've come around with different gear ratios to kind of compensate to keep up with the competition. Now, with that being said, there is 3 different trim levels, the Sport being at the bottom, starting at $29,215, and then the Club being in the middle of the 3 trims, starting you at $33,110. Now, if you want to go for the top dog, which is the Grand Touring, that's going to set you back $34,810. Now, all these trims come with a manual transmission. You can option automatic in the Grand Touring, but it's going to set you back an extra $500. Now, all these MX-5s that I've been talking about so far have been the convertible. If you want the hardtop or the retractable roof, the RF, the MX-5 RF is going to set you back. They have the Grand Touring and the Club. The Grand Touring is going to be $37,810, and the Club is going to be just over $40,000. So quite a bit more if you want that retractable hardtop, but I do think it looks great compared to that soft top in the base MX-5. Now there is one last competitor that may or may not be in the lineup with the GR86 or even the Miata at that, and that surprisingly is going to be the Mustang. Kind of an oddball one because it's quite a bit larger of a platform, but that does come with a 4-cylinder motor, and it is a 2-door rear-wheel drive, and that's really like one of the last ones in the market right now that's still doing the rear-wheel drive 2-door with a 4-cylinder motor at that. But this one has a turbo. This is the EcoBoost Fastback. A 2.3-liter EcoBoost producing 315 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. So quite a big leap from our 181 horsepower or our 228 horsepower in the BRZ GR86 or even in the MX-5. But that Mustang starts at $33,160 and can get anywhere to $40,000 plus. Now that is similar pricing compared to the GR86 or the MX-5, so I am going to kind of wrap it in there with the competition. Now I'm going to throw another vehicle in the mix that may kind of throw us for a loop price-wise. If you're in the $30,000 to $40,000 price range, you're going to want to stick with the GR86, BRZ, or even that MX-5, or possibly the Mustang if you want to go that route. But this one is going to be a little bit more expensive, but it is another offering in the rear-wheel drive 2-door platform from Toyota, and that is the GR Supra. It has 2 engine options, a 2-liter or a 3-liter motor. The 2-liter produces 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque, or the 3-liter inline 6 produces 382 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque. So the 3-liter is going to be a big leap from even the Mustang, but definitely from the GR86 or the MX-5, but it's going to set you back a hefty price tag. Now the 2-liter auto is going to start at $46,635, and the 3-liter manual transmission is going to set you back $55,595. So kind of a big price difference from $55,000, nearly $56,000 to the base price of the GR86, which was $29,000. Now I know I'm throwing a lot of prices at you guys, kind of a lot, and hopefully our graphics are going to help with that. But I do think that there is some options out there if you are looking for a kind of weekend vehicle, a track car at that. And there's very limited options, but there is great options out there. The GR86 is a great platform, and so is the MX-5, tried and true. Lots of aftermarket support, especially if you want to go for older models. Lots of aftermarket support. Now the EcoBoost Mustang still is kind of in its like beginning stages. Definitely a great platform from what I've been hearing. I have not personally driven the 4-cylinder EcoBoost Mustang. I have driven the 5-liter. Incredible platform, but I have not driven it with the 4-cylinder. I'm sure it's going to change the characteristics greatly. Now I have driven the 2-liter and the 3-liter Supra, and that is a fantastic vehicle. Now I've always heard people say that 3-liter Supra, and this is just kind of my rant real quick. I've always heard people say that 3-liter Supra needs more power. Everybody was upset that it was in collaboration with BMW, or it's practically a BMW with the Toyota badge. But I drove that vehicle on track, even the 2-liter. I don't think the 2-liter really needs more horsepower. Now, if you are coming from a V8 or a tuned big turbo Supra, getting into a stock vehicle with 380 plus horsepower, you might think it might need more power. I personally do not believe that, and that is going to be the end of my rant on the Supra. Other than that, I do think there is some options out there if you are looking for a two-door rear-wheel drive, especially with a vehicle with a manual transmission. There are a few options out there, so get out there and look, see what strikes your fancy, and see what price range you're looking at, because there is quite a wide range of pricing. So let me know down in the comments which vehicle you guys would choose. We have the GR86/BRZ, we have the MX-5 Miata, we have the EcoBoost Mustang, and then if you really want to spend the cheddar, we have the Supra. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'd love to see what you guys have to say. And that is going to wrap it for my GR86 review. I appreciate you guys watching so much. And until my next review, my name is Nick with Auto Buyer's Guide. I will see you guys then.